So hello everyone, welcome. My name is Joseph Valencia. I'm a staff member with the Vincent Price Art Museum. Today we're going to go live for the first time on our new program, VPAM in the Studio. And we'll have a special guest today, Dulce Soledad Ibarra. Dulce is an artist, a designer, curator, an educator as well. And we'll be able to talk about some of Dulce's recent work and learn about some of the concerns that drive the work. So let's see if Dulce is here and I could add, let me see, go live. Okay, I think we figured it out.
Hi.
Hey, we're here.
We're here.
How are you?
I'm doing well,
You got some work on the back of your wall right there?
I'm in my studio, yes.
That's part of my question too. I wanted to see out before we got started. I mean, where are you right now? And, you know, city, neighborhood, area, and how you've been spending your time lately?
Yeah, I currently live in Boyle Heights, but my studio here is in South Central, so just in the LA area completely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and been working on things. Been teaching right now, and that's been fruitful to have to be a motivating force during the time. A little bit hard, but you know, it ends up being motivating for me too.
Yeah, or having like a structure to kind of follow with your courses.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, distractions of sorts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad. Well, first off, thank you for joining me and our live here. I mean, I feel like we talk a lot about art and other things, and it's kind of a nice opportunity to open that up for other folks and just to kind of give a glimpse of some of that and some of the work. And so, like I was saying, you know, it's a pretty short format, so hopefully we can cover some good ground here. I have some images, hopefully to start with the 9th to Olympic project, but of course we can expand out. And I don't know if you could hear that, but down my street there's an ice cream man playing.
Love it. I have an open studio shared space, so it's just, you might hear things.
Yeah.
Too. Maybe not ice cream, but you know.
It's kind of, wow, it's kind of celebrating this this moment. But yeah, I could open, let's see, I'm going to put a picture here and maybe start to frame the conversation. Yeah. If you want to tell, you know, our followers and the folks that are, you know, tuning in here a little bit about this project.
Yeah, so, I mean, the pandemic kind of hit me at a rough time. I was in my final semester of grad school, and my thesis has been revolving around the Piñata district of downtown Los Angeles. Just east of the fashion and flower district. So the focus of that has been to create some sort of alignment opportunity to the space that already exists. And a lot of that had to do with, I've been working at institutions for like the past decade in various positions. And you know, it's interesting to have space for art, but I also was thinking about the idea of space making, and we have a lot of conversations in Los Angeles in particular about how art has this intersection with community. And I think that a lot of the times we've missed the mark. We're starting to see, and we're seeing a lot of spaces start to really integrate community, the surrounding community, being good neighbors of sorts. To the area that's around them, to the population of the area. But yeah, it's interesting to kind of see that. But also, as I was thinking about that framework, I was like, why art spaces specifically? And how do we kind of look at the culture of Los Angeles as a whole in a way that, you know, we already see the arts culture there without bringing in, you know, these quote unquote art spaces. So working within that framework and thinking about myself as a maker, but also a curator, as a facilitator of sorts, I kind of was inspired. I mean, always about what's there at the Piñata district. But yeah, when COVID kind of hit, it was a bit abrupt for me, and it became a little daunting to want to continue to do a project like this, particularly because when I went back to see the folks of these small businesses, the street vendors, things were gone for a while. And I took it as an opportunity when things started to slowly open up to try to create a sort of initiation of collaboration. Because before I was talking to folks, I was creating relationships, but I was also just making things through the conversations. And you know, it feels a little like I think it was a lot of it was just me trying to respond and create responses through that, but also it ended up being this way where their voices, our input, our hands weren't very much involved. So when I got an opportunity to work with them, you know, it wasn't just like a business opportunity; it was a way to continue that relationship even further. So I very much started to work with ideas of piñatas and what that could mean.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious if you could talk like some of the dialogues that have come out of that, but also, you know, you shared a little bit of the thinking about it, but I mean, maybe the actual, you know, the relationship building side of it, you know, with the señoras and señores and their kids too, right? That are like part of this economy, this culture.
Absolutely. So one part is that, like, yes, there are these small mom and pop shops. These are like family-owned places, and then there's also the street vendors out there. It's important for me to kind of have my work reflect them, and so part of that was also trying to integrate them more into the practice. And so I created this installation, which I showed as part of my thesis show, although I feel like this is an ongoing project that surpasses a thesis that I've created and that I've kind of initiated. But, you know, one of the strategies was, yes, working with them. And also another strategy was also creating an Instagram for the whole street, the whole block. But, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I was trying to think, so for instance, working with them created a relationship. I was just texting actually Kenya earlier today. So Kenya from Kenya's Party Supply was one of the stores that I worked with, who made piñatas for that have the text "Pásale," which is right there, which was actually great. Like picking that up, it was there. I took a photo before I took it, and before I told her I was going to take it, because she had already put it on display, and she always does that every time I order a piñata. So that was really nice that there's like this sense of pride that also happened within these makers, and that, you know, I always like to credit them because they are the makers, and that maybe this is like a fabrication thing, but, you know, this is also like a blooming relationship.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, in the beginning, I introduced you, you know, as an artist, but also, you know, your work, I think, as a designer, as an illustrator, like, definitely comes to play with your fine art practice. And I have an image of, I don't know if my face is like in the way of it, but you know,
so that's
can you talk a little bit about like the impetus of, you know, buying and commissioning specific phrases and working in collaboration with these different folks down in the Piñata district?
I have more of the drawings here. So like another one is Entrale. I'm sure you can't see it exactly right, but so, you know, these became like, initially I was responding to the objects and to the conversations I was having with these folks, but then it was like them responding to these illustrations that I did, and these illustrations were like based on what happened, the pandemic. I mean, the whole installation was really, really focused in on the pandemic and what had happened through that time. And what did happen for me was amazing to see is that when they started opening up, because they started to rethink their place in the economy, in business, and essential business.
Mm-hmm.
So, for small businesses and for particularly migrant-owned businesses, migrants in general, it was much harder to get support. Not that we really got much support at all,
Mm-hmm.
but they struggled maybe the most. So staying closed is not an option for them.
Yeah.
It's just not. The hustle remained. And for them, they switched gears and they started to actually introduce products like hand sanitizer, toilet paper, kitchenware, so in some cases food, masks. So all these things that would actually make them become essential businesses and therefore open up much faster. And that happened like right away. And so I saw that means of adaptation, like just immediate and this kind of fury to survive. And I couldn't help but like want to create like these words that were nod to them and ode to them of sorts. So the first word that I started off with, I'm trying to find it. It's in here. Was moment. I wasn't as prepared as I wanted to be. Well, it was sobrevivientes. And sobrevivientes means survivors. So, it started off with this drawing. And so I gave this drawing to Lino from Carousel Party Supplies. And from there, he kind of asked me questions like, why am I doing this? And what's it for? And I said, well, I'm working on this project and I want to include you, and I love your store and I love this whole block. I want to make sure that this becomes part of my work and then becomes eventually like our work together. So Lino was like super psyched. He also said his nephew just got into USC, so that's the program that I was in, and he was immediately like interested in what I was doing and really liked the idea, and he was so proud when he made it too. Like actually, you were there picking it up for the first time.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then I saw Juan, who was like another one of the workers there, and he was like, oh, I gotta bring Lino out, he's so happy. And so like Lino came out, and there's a photo of like Lino in front of the sign, because they all took, so Joseph, which is another person, a different Joseph who also works there, is one of the nephews there. Joseph was like, you want to take a photo, do you mind? I was like, no, I want to take a photo. So we set it up, and it was in front of the street, in front of their store, and Lino was like in the middle, mask on, fist raised up, and it was just kind of like a great moment. And I wasn't sure I was going to continue making these piñatas, but like at that point, it felt like I had to, or like it felt like right to continue. And so, I continued the relationships. Another store that I went to is La Mexicanita, which is like just west of just across the street from Carousel, so neighbors, but a much smaller store, smaller store than Xicanx or Carousel. And so I was able to talk to the owner, Nick, who also was just interested in doing it too. And we had already been talking because a lot of the bags that I've been working with, which are behind me, a lot of those bags came from La Mexicanita. And so, anyways, just developing that relationship even further was great, because that's one of my favorite stores there, actually. And so, like, seeing that or developing that relationship felt really great. But yeah, it was just a way to continue the conversations, to establish it, but also just an ode to the folks that are out there. Yeah, and how they have the will, they have the ability to continue. And you know, I think about these words like sobrevivientes or juntos or con ganas. Like these are like uplifting words in a lot of sense, but they're actually quite neutral. When I think about it even more, like to survive is it could be a positive, but it's a continuous struggle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a continuous thought process. To like con ganas, like to give your all into a situation. That again is you're losing pieces of yourself. There's some sort of sacrifice that's happening.
Yeah.
And juntos, like, you know, we could be so blessed to have each other, but you know, the struggle to. I mean, I think about these families; they struggle all together to make things happen. You know, so there are really great words that can be uplifting and inspirational, but also they're quite neutral to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, also like terms like pásale, entrale, that was just like a way for me to kind of create a visual for the audio that I experienced there, which is like all of the yelling and the experience of it. Yeah. So it's really
I think this image probably better, like, you know, the walking by and
mm-hmm.
you know,
Absolutely.
that little moment of trying to get someone in.
Yeah.
And welcome them and see, you know, what do we have here and what do you want or what are you looking for?
It's yeah, I love that hustle.
Well, I mean, even like the experience that you described, like for the Sobrevivientes one, you know, they had, even at that time, it was pretty early on, right, when they were reopening and trying to establish their own protocols and their new normal, and they even had a coronavirus piñata.
Yeah, they did put them on the side. That was their little take on
that. And it was just like, yeah. And I remember, you know, I had, you know, the privilege of helping you transport some of those piñatas, and there were folks that were just, you know, of course, there and shopping or whatever it may be, but that moment of seeing that phrase and they're like, yeah, you know, it was kind of just this cool moment of acknowledgement and even affirmation, you know, not having to translate, not just in terms of language, but the conceptual kind of drive of the work. You know, the principal investigations or not even investigation, but like the discourse and the dialogue is like already embedded into that practice. And I, you know, I want to give you a lot of props to that, because I think that you've been really intentional about that kind of relationship. It might be helpful for folks to see, you know, an install shot of a lot of these piñatas together, you know, and you know, you mentioned that you ended up, you know, funneling this project or growing this project alongside an exhibition, a thesis exhibition, and in many ways the project's still continuing. But I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about what was it like to translate this work and these objects into an exhibition space, and to communicate this project in this way.
So I think it's really interesting to think about space, because where this is held, I'm taking it down tomorrow night, but you know, where this is held is in the Arts District, and the Arts District is a great example of a place that could not sustain itself. Not in the sense that like, oh, they just couldn't. It's like, you know, property managers, all these landlords and developers, they saw it as an opportunity to change the space, right? So artists came in, they transformed it as this place that used to, you know, be kind of run down and no one really went to, and so the artists kind of came in because rent was cheap, and then you know, brightened it up in some sort of way, and that opportunity of that was kind of challenged, and then eventually had so many artists pushed out of the district.
Yeah.
And so, you know, in talks about sustaining a space and thinking about gentrification, I think that, you know, despite my hesitation of being placed or having the works of this project be placed in a gallery, it came in a lot of ways together because it was facing, it's it's facing a window, and the window is facing all this construction that's actually happening in the arts district right now. And so, you know, Spotify would be just next door. There's to be next door sometime soon in the future, right? And so there's like already a lot just given the site. Thinking about how the Piñata district is only maybe 3-4 blocks from that area. So it all seems like really fitting. Translating it, maybe even just thinking about that as a literal sense, it was not difficult in a way, because there's something celebratory that's in piñatas just in general. We're from you know, Southern California, and if you live in California, or if you've experienced anyone that's, you know, Latinx or been part of that community, like, it's such a large community. And so this is not unknown to people. But what it is unknown to people is maybe the history of piñatas. And I can get to that later, but, you know, the point is that the celebratory part of all of this is already there. There's a brightness to it. There's something welcoming about it. And I don't need to translate that. That's the visual that's kind of already there and present.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's funny, like, it really does feel like a showroom because of these large grid windows that you know, is basically the exterior of this exhibition space, the Roski Graduate Gallery. But, you know, and of course with COVID, I mean, it's not a space that is readily available or having even accessible to the public. And so, of course, you know, the way that you've presented the show is one that is still accessible from by walking traffic, right? And I think about, you know, the communication, the discourse kind of aspect of this project, and how it, like you said, I mean, it's still possible. It's still for those who walk down that area. I mean, it's a little bit of a hidden space given that new building, the development complex. But I also think about folks that I don't know, there's a level of almost immediacy in terms of connecting to the work. I mean, especially folks who like you said, have a cultural connection to it. You know, VPAM, as you know, is at East LA College, a majority student of color population, especially, you know, Chicano, Central American, as well as Asian American. And I think that especially children of immigrants are being able to kind of understand that hustle and see it, you know, recognize it. And, you know, I mean, even, you know this, but my grandmother makes her own piñatas too, you know? And so when she saw these, I mean, hers are not at that same, you know, it's a different way of her making them. I mean, she has an artistry in her own right, but immediately it's a conversation of how, oh, I make them this way, or they make them this way. And, you know, and it's like, I was really surprised, you know, to see that even manifest in my own life, just talking about, hey, there's an amazing artisan friend of mine that's working in this, and it actually relates to something that you're doing, you know. It's an 84-year-old Mexican woman.
I mean, that's maybe more of my biggest audience to me. Like, when I think about making these things, the audience ends up being the Spanish-speaking Latinx migrant community, or children of migrants or immigrants. So it's definitely all of that. And so, you know, it's great when I don't have to translate any of the text.
Right.
Like, it feels like there's this loving understanding of it. And there's this cheery side about it, and then there's also like just this cultural exchange of this common exchange, you know. And then it becomes, you know, like you feel part of that community more than ever.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, I have the other image I have is, you know, works that you've produced alongside this project and or also in dialogue with it. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about that process of creating other works and that participatory experience or methodology as well.
So I've been working with especially before I started to include maybe the hands of the piñateros from the district. before I was doing that, I was mostly having conversations and also just buying things. I mainly just bought things because I wanted to make sure that the conversation was compensated, because time is money for these people. So
Right.
Every time like I'd have a conversation, anytime I'd have a conversation, I would also ask them, what do you think about I should buy here? And so it'd be like they helped me out. Like Joseph helped me buy this what's it called, a cup mug, and then like that vase, that painting that I did, quote unquote, is based on this vase that Yolanda helped me purchase. So it's always this exchange of like a conversation, but also understanding that they have to make ends meet, and so I have to honor that too. I thought, I love bags. I love like these borsas are everywhere in my life, and to me they also represent this durability, this sustainability, that you can use them over and over again, but they also have this very specific cultural iconography attached to them, and they're always hecho en Mexico, and so I thought about that, and I thought about the exchange of goods too, because most of the products that are sold at the Piñata district are from Mexico, so there's always this connection to home. But at the same time, there's this creation of this connection to home, this like visual, visceral, audible, this energetic kind of experience that you get when you're at the district. And particularly like having, like when I go there, it feels like I'm in Mexico. And that's what a lot of like my mom was I had a conversation with my mom about it. She's like, oh yeah, when we went there, it felt like home. And so this space making of home, this visual representation of home, but also a way for folks that maybe don't work there, but like are in the area, and they go there and they see parts of their home, and they buy it, and they take it with them. That connection is always there too. But like the bags are, it has such a great metaphor for many things, of carrying things over and imports.
Right.
Also like the exchange of doing it over and over again too. So I particularly am attached to the bags for that reason. And also that they're so colorful and they come in so many colors, and I can work with them in that kind of way. I've always been attached to fiber work in general, so hand stitching things is something that was passed down to me by my late aunt, and so I also honor her in that way too. So yeah, these bags feel like a constant.
Right. I mean, and also the way that you've not only connected to them, but then have really made them, so centered, and also using them to play with other senses or other understandings of art, right? Well, if this is a painting that you're seeing here, and of course the pieces that you have on the wall there, and the way that you're kind of reutilizing or recasting the usage and understanding of this material.
Yeah, I'm taking a 3D object and flattening it in some sort of way, but that's understood as a painting, but it's still understood as the object too. Like creating perspective in a different way, because it's not like I can create a lot of shadow with these works. They end up being flat anyways. There's not enough colors for that, but or maybe I'm not playing with that in that kind of way. But taking something that is handmade by someone's hand, is hand painted by someone's hand, and basically just responding to that in my kind of way. It's really nice. Yolanda really liked that piece.
I was gonna say, did you get to show Yolanda this work?
She's
or
like,
the image
let
of
me
it?
know when you need more bags. We'll give you a discount. She's really great. So that's like part of the process, is like showing the work that I did, but also showing the work that they've done. Yeah.
Right. So unfortunately, I mean, I had a feeling this format would be too short, but I mean, that's kind of the point of it, is just to dive into it a little bit. I'm curious if you could tell in the last couple minutes that we have left, if you could share, what do you envision, or how do you envision this project moving forward, or you mentioned it's ongoing, of course, with the relationships you've built, but also kind of the creative output, if you could speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that as I've been just developing trust, and I think that, working with the Piñateros has really kind of confirmed that trust in a lot of ways. Because, I am an outsider, or I have been an outsider, and then I'm, like, fastly diligently being there, like, weekly or as much as I can, sometimes twice a week. It afforded me the connection, and also, like, a nice trust between me and the folks there at the district. And so what I'm hoping is more collaboration and more of their input too.
Right.
In a lot of ways, I'm responding, or I'm kind of facilitating this, and that's great. I'm happy to take that role, but I'm also so open to expanding it to them more, and for their voices to be heard a lot more. And I really do want to work with the actual district. My hesitation of using the gallery was because, I wanted to center them, and I wanted to center the district. So site specificity was very important, but due to COVID and trying to make sure that people are comfortable enough to see maybe the work that I've done, it just seemed more plausible to keep it in space. But like, more than likely, no, not more than likely, let's like manifest that I would be doing work that is on the street, and that I would be, working alongside them, popping up the way that they do, curating the space the way that they do the shop owners as well as the street vendors. That I too would be that opportunity to show in that kind of way. But yeah, right now, like, I'm focusing in on my virtual product, although I'm very slow at it right now just because I'm teaching, but like, creating a lot. When things closed, one thing I noticed is that many of them did not have, they didn't have internet presence, they didn't have social media presence, and so I decided to make that for them, and just dedicate my time and all these photos I've already taken that I love to take, that I always document anyways when I'm out there. I wanted to share those photos, but also make sure that when I'm sharing these photos, everyone knows where I got it from. Like, there's no question. Like, there's the address. You want this? Go get it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the way you use the Instagram account now, and I think maybe that's a good way to close it, is, on 9th to Olympic, the Instagram page. I mean, you've had a certain amount of posts that are very specific, or like talking about a certain one of the specific shops or people or the things you're buying. And I think that folks who are on this live, definitely will tag that account, because it's a nice way to keep track of this work as it continues to develop. And hopefully, I mean, it continues to be fruitful, not just for you, but, with a lot of people working down there.
Absolutely. That's what I want.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dulce, for your time and for sharing a little bit about some of the project. I appreciate you, and I'm glad we could share that. Like I said, folks, you can we'll tag in Dulce's different accounts to keep track of the different projects that you're working on, and we'll see you in the next one. This is the first, hopefully, of many, and you can catch everything online.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
All right, bye. Thanks.